We are launching what is called Tampa Forward, Building Tomorrow Together. And it's the first land development code, holistic land development code update that the city's undertaken since the late 1980s.
Since the late 1980s. Obviously, there's a sort of archaic nature to something that was implemented in the late 80s versus now. How backwards would, in your opinion, is the current land use plan?
I don't know that it's backwards. I think it's piecemealed. We've tried to make adjustments over the past couple decades to address changing trends or new development types within our city. And from there, we definitely we've made changes, but we've not holistically looked at the code as a whole. And some of the things we look at today, like getting more creative with parking or accessory dwelling units or other opportunities to move our city forward, have been done just on kind of a case-by-case basis instead of really taking the opportunity to update the code, make it more user-friendly, more understandable for our citizens. Some people don't even know what a land development code is or that that's what really controls their rights on their property. So I think we're working with a team. We put out a request for proposals, received several. We selected a team, and they will be there on September 16th to launch the public element of the update.
September 16th. So Tampa Forward, Building Tomorrow Together, a 2-year project to update the city's land development code. Why 2 years?
Because it takes time to do stuff right.
So through those 2 years, right, you're talking with consultants around the nation.
Yes.
You're hiring specific people to rewrite specific things in the code. Like, how comprehensive is this change?
That team actually brings all those pieces together. So that team has legal advisement. That team has urban design advisement. They have that as subcontractors to their team. So Clarion Associates is our consultant. The first thing they were doing is an assessment of the code, and they're wrapping that up here shortly. And that really looks, the assessment's going to look at how the code is currently operating and where are opportunities to improve that. And then based on that assessment, then they start going into updating the zoning districts, updating the processes and procedures. We've had administrative processes and quasi-judicial processes that are all spelt out in the current code, but they really need to be synthesized and brought into more relevant to today's approaches. So we're working on that with them.
So 2-year process from start to finish, or 2 years of studies and implementation?
No, 2 years from start to finish. We actually kicked off in April. That's when the team came to the city and had some interviews with staff and stakeholders and started their assessment. So we've been going. It's just that September will be the first time. We'll have several public touch points during the process, and September will be our first one. I was trying to wait kind of till school got back in session and people were back from their summer break. I really want this to be a very publicly engaged process. We have so many different neighborhood activists throughout the city that are really in tune with what's going on with the code, what works with the code, what doesn't work with the code. And I think it's important to have all of the stakeholders as part of the process. And that too is why I'm even including city council members. They've been invited to the kickoff, as well as I provide a monthly update to council each month as to what is going on with this process, so that they can be aware, and it's not that all of a sudden we show up 18 months down the road with a brand new code and nobody's been informed as to what's been going on. So it's been a goal of mine to ensure that I'm sharing that communication. And now that we have the website up, also there's a public survey out there for people if they're interested in letting us know their thoughts. It's very quick, 10 questions roughly. And we want to hear from everyone in relationship to how our city grows. I think I mentioned to you, whenever I'm around town, I always hear people talking about planning and talking about development, not necessarily knowing that that's what they're talking about. It's funny because I always say, I'm a planner. I never try to be a doctor or a lawyer, but there's a lot of doctors or lawyers or people who try to be planners. and
So true.
but it really hits home because we are all so sensitive to our built environment and to what makes a place. And Tampa's such a special place and really has so many unique opportunities for our citizens. It just, and I think they're really in tune with what Tampa means to them.
Totally true. There has been a lot of these historic buildings and areas of our city that have been bulldozed and basically trampled on for a long, long time, decades and decades and decades, going back to almost 100 years. I mean, when you look at old pictures of Tampa, it was a lot more dense. There was a lot more shops and restaurants in the urban core. Obviously, culture has a lot to do with that. There was a massive exodus from downtowns. This is not just a Tampa problem, right? This happened all over the country, urban renewal, the interstate highway system, people living in the suburbs, right? Those are all just facts of our culture. Now, my generation and even people older than me, they want that walkability. A lot of people do, and they didn't want that before. Changing the code, changing this land use code, was that your directive, or was it something always in the air? Maybe not always, but at least for the past couple decades, where the developers, people in the public sector, and people within the city saying, hey, we need to change this? Like, how long has this been on the radar for?
I think it was elevated on the radar through Mayor Castor's T3 initiatives in Transforming Tampa's Tomorrow and the Advisory Committee for the Development Services.
Hey guys, if you want to watch the full episode of this clip, click right here. Make sure to subscribe by clicking right here. Thank you for watching.